Hello everybody, and welcome to Ancient Architects. Please subscribe now to get the latest ancient history news and independent research from around the world. To the average person with a passing interest in ancient Egypt, they will have heard of the Sphinx, the pyramids, the Valley of the Kings, and the tomb of King Tutankhamen, the latter being arguably the greatest archaeological discovery of all time, due to the vast amounts of treasure unearthed by explorer Howard Carter. Tutankhamun's tomb is of course world famous, with sell-out exhibitions as the collection of priceless artefacts tours the world, most recently in Paris. But there is another royal Egyptian treasure trove that for some reason has escaped the limelight. It was found in the city of Tanis, located in the Nile Delta northeast of Cairo, and in many ways it is actually far more spectacular than that of the 18th dynasty boy king. It is known as the Treasures of Tanis, and the priceless artefacts were found in the late 1930s and early 1940s. The excavated area consisted of an entire complex of royal tombs, and, unlike the tomb of Tutankhamen, one was found perfectly intact. In total, the hoard of precious artefacts includes 4 solid gold death masks, 2 beautiful and incredible solid silver coffins lined with gold, and spectacular examples of ancient Egyptian jewellery made from the most precious metals and stones. It is thanks to an article written by Egyptologist Bob Breyer that I know about this truly incredible discovery, and in my opinion, it's something we should all be aware of. So in this video, I'll paraphrase Breyer's work, as well as adding extra detail so we can give this find the airtime it deserves. The Treasures of Tanis are a discovery that has often fallen under the radar, yet without any shadow of a doubt, it consists of some of the greatest archaeological discoveries of all time. So, if they are so spectacular, why don't we know about them in great detail? Well, the discovery was made at the beginning of the Second World War, and of course, the world's media had other stories that took the front page. Furthermore, the findings were only published in French, and with everything else that was going on in the world, it went unnoticed by the British and American press. Even today, visitors to the Egyptian Museum in Cairo gather around the golden death mask of Tutankhamen and stare with wonder, not knowing that they have just walked past a room that displays what are arguably far more incredible treasures. One can only hope that they are given pride of place in the new Grand Egyptian Museum that opens in 2020. The find was the right discovery at the wrong time, and because it is common knowledge to most people that Howard Carter found Tutankhamun's tomb, I think we need to give some airtime to the man that discovered the Treasures of Tanis. His name was Pierre Montet, and in the year 1939, which was his 11th year of excavations at Tanis, Montet finally discovered something unique. The day was February the 27th, and he found the tomb of a king, dating back to around 850 BC, and it was identified by inscriptions as belonging to King Azorkan II, who ruled during the 22nd dynasty of Egypt, an era known as the Third Intermediate Period of dynastic history. Inside the tomb there were several rooms, but sadly, all of them had been plundered and robbed. Saying that, and a fabulous quartzite sarcophagus for his grandson and successor, Takalot II, remained intact. There were also hundreds of Ushabti figurines, alabaster jars, and other funerary objects. On the face of it was a great discovery, but because Adolf Hitler was in the process of seizing Czechoslovakia, it wouldn't get any attention from the world's press. Montet cleared the tomb and examined the surrounding area, and in so doing discovered another tomb, adjoining the one he had previously found. Opening it up, he discovered that this one was completely undisturbed, and to this day, it is the only royal tomb from dynastic history to be found in such a perfect state. It was the tomb of King Susenes I, and on the floor was a closed sarcophagus. On March 21st, 1939, Egypt's King Farouk arrived at the site to witness the opening. Inside was a beautiful solid silver coffin that had the falcon's head of Horus. Inside was a solid gold death mask, still resting on the shoulders of the body of the ancient king, which was also adorned with the most beautiful jewellery, including jewel-encrusted bracelets and pectorals. There were also 4 solid silver canopic jars. But on closer inspection, inscriptions showed that although this was clearly his tomb, this wasn't the coffin of Susenes I, but a previously unknown king called Sheshenq II. He was also one of the kings of the third intermediate period of dynastic history, ruling in the 22nd dynasty, and was found to have died in his 50s of a septic wound to the head. But in this moment, with this discovery, history was rewritten. There was now evidence that the northern kings of Tanis were not weak rulers as some once thought, but were clearly a force to be reckoned with riches rivalling or even surpassing the kings in the south, as well as any other dynasty of Egyptian history. It was once believed that these northern kings were more like chiefs, with the real wealth and power lying with the kings of the south who were based at Thebes. With this discovery, history had certainly been rewritten. So, Monte had found two royal tombs, one looted and one seemingly intact, but inscriptions said that this was not the tomb of Sheshenq, but it was that of Susenes. So, where was he? As the Second World War was taking hold, with Germany invading Poland and France and Britain declaring war, Monte continued to excavate. He discovered several more chambers, but no missing king. Then, on February the 15th, 1940, he discovered a corridor that was sealed by a single huge granite plug, that was made of a section of an obelisk of Ramesses the Great. Monte spent 6 days chipping away at the hard block of granite, and finally, in an act that mirrored the moment that Howard Carter gazed into the tomb of Tutankhamen, Monte peered into this once sealed room. What he could see was astonishing. There were gold and silver bowls and cups, ushabtis, and a large pink granite, beautifully decorated sarcophagus of Susenes. When the sarcophagus was finally prized open, inside the outer and middle coffins was an incredible solid silver inner coffin that was inlaid with gold. Opening it up, and the king's face was covered with the most spectacular solid gold death mask. On his body was jewellery equal to that of Tutankhamen. There were also objects made of lapis lazuli, which could have only have been imported from as far away as Afghanistan. This was truly the find of a lifetime. The middle and outer coffins had originally been made for Pharaoh Merenptah of the 19th dynasty, the successor of Ramesses the Great. These would have been taken in what we now know was state-sanctioned tomb robbing in the Valley of the Kings in the third intermediate period. Susenes, which is the Greek version of his name, was the third pharaoh of the 21st dynasty, ruling from Tanis from around 1047 to 1001 BC. His name means the star appearing in the city, and his throne name, which is shown here on the screen, translates to Great are the manifestations of Ra, chosen by Amen. Ruling for half a century, this pharaoh died an old man, with badly worn teeth full of cavities, many of which were missing, and a body that was crippled with extensive arthritis. He was the king responsible for building the central part and the enclosure walls of the great temple of Tanis, and he was the man that turned Tanis into a fully fledged capital city of the north. He did this not by orchestrating a new building project, but by moving the former capital city of Ramesses the Great, which was known as Pyrames, stone by stone to Tanis. The capital of Tanis literally was the former capital of Pyrames, but moved to a new location. This incredible feat is like moving Washington DC halfway to Baltimore. But why did the king do this? What was the point? Well, the Nile River had moved, due to high levels of silting at Pyrames, and the city was left quite literally high and dry. And so, Susenes dismantled not just a few buildings but an entire city, rescuing it and re-erecting it at Tanis. It is worth adding that Pierre Montet, the man who discovered the incredible tomb, also first suggested the idea of Pyrames being Tanis. King Susenes did something truly extraordinary in his life, but that's because he was no ordinary king. He was more than a pharaoh, because he was also by right the high priest, and this may explain the tremendous wealth his tomb shows he had accumulated. In northern Egypt, from the New Kingdom onwards, taxes went to both the pharaoh and the high priest, so what Susenes did was combine both titles, and hence both sets of income, to become not just the most powerful, but also the wealthiest man in northern Egypt. His tomb goes down in history as the only pharaonic grave ever discovered that was unscathed by any attempts at robbing, therefore making it one of the most important discoveries of all time. And although we often talk about Khufu, of Ramesses the Great, of Akhenaten, of Hatshepsut and Tutankhamen, Susenes should be added to this list, as a truly remarkable pharaoh with a tomb to match his life's achievements. But one mystery remains. Why were two coffins of two kings from the 3rd intermediate period both made of solid silver? Why not gold? Gold was known as the flesh of the gods. Its ability not to rust or tarnish meant it could last forever, just like the gods themselves. But silver? Well, due to its scarcity in early dynastic history, silver was once more precious than gold. But by the time of the 3rd intermediate period, trade links had been established to make silver more accessible, and experts say that by the 21st dynasty, it was only worth half that of gold. But if Susenes was rich enough to afford gold, as we suspect he was, being both pharaoh and high priest, why did he choose silver for his coffin? Well, silver is harder than gold, and therefore it is much harder to work, to mould and to shape. So working an estimated 90 kilograms of silver to make the coffin may have been a statement, a showcase of his power and his skill as well as his wealth. Analysis has also shown that the face of the coffin was cast in a mould and hammered into shape, whilst parts of the coffin were made of hammered sheets of silver that were so thin that it was damaged in parts during its removal from the tomb. In time, a total of 4 gold death masks were discovered at Tanis, but Pierre Montet was responsible for finding 3 royal burials, 2 silver coffins, 2 solid gold death masks, and 1 tomb that was completely intact, an achievement that will surely never be equalled by any future Egyptologist. The treasures of King Tutankhamen certainly have a greater value today, but this is not because of their literal weight in gold, but because of the fame associated with this pharaoh. And this is only because his tomb was able to make front page news around the world on its discovery. If Montet had made his discoveries a few years before, the treasures of Tanis would today be touring the world. Children would all know the names King Sheshonq II and King Susenes, and Pierre Montet would be archaeological royalty. The treasures of Tanis should be viewed by anybody visiting Egypt, and we have Pierre Montet to thank. He was the man who made one of the greatest archaeological discoveries of all time, but sadly couldn't even finish his excavations, as he went back to France to take care of his family during the war. Montet died in 1966, a man who discovered some of the greatest treasures of ancient Egypt, who first linked the city of Tanis to Pyramus. And for all this and more, we should ensure that his legacy lives on. I have just relaunched my new channel Space and Planet, which looks at Earth and space science news as well as independent research. Please subscribe now, I have left a link in the description below. Thank you very much for watching this episode of Ancient Architects. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe to the channel, please like the video, and please leave a comment below. Thank you very much.